You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. And our guest today is someone you've probably seen on TikTok or Facebook in a gravel parking lot outside of a gas station, telling you whether the biscuit or the chicken is any good. Gas station food reviews. Well, he's with us today, Stafford Shurden, and we're going to find out where that all started.
This episode of Mississippi Outdoors Podcast is sponsored by the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, Parks, and Marine.
Stafford Shurden with us today on the show, and I have seen you, and many have seen you on Facebook or maybe TikTok, eating food in gas station parking lots. What's that all about, Stafford?
I don't know how that got started other than it was an advertisement for my restaurant was the original idea.
Okay.
But it kind of goes in with Mississippi Outdoors a little bit.
Well, I wondered if that, because I was talking to Chip earlier, and he said something about, he was thinking maybe that hunters all eat at gas stations. I was like, it had to be it, because either on the way in or on the way out, hunters are eating gas station food. Right?
Every hunter in Mississippi knows where the good gas station food is.
Yes,
there's no question.
There's no doubt about it. Okay, and so what happened is, am I right? It developed into kind of like gas station food reviews.
Yeah.
But I've seen you not only at places in Mississippi, it could be South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. It really took off, didn't it?
Way more than what I thought. And it's funny because I've lived a lot of lives to be 52, I think. But I'm more known for that than anything else. And I'm like, I've been an elected official, a farmer, a restaurant owner, and more people know me for eating gas station food off the tailgate of my truck than anything. It's kind of weird.
So take me back, though, when you did start that. You said it started as a way to promote the restaurant, but how are you doing it?
Yeah, so I was judge for 14 years, and there's some things I didn't feel comfortable doing on social media when I was judge. I was like, there's some bridges you don't cross.
Okay.
Not against the law, but maybe it just didn't look right. Yeah. And when I retired in 2019, I said, well, let's start doing something like a Dave Portnoy pizza review of gas stations. That was really kind of the first thought. And kind of compare fried chicken at those gas stations to my fried chicken. That was the original idea.
So it was a chicken deal initially.
It's going to be chicken, and then it just took off so fast. Like within a week, people were first going, what are you doing? And within the same week, they were like, man, this is cool.
Right.
And I really quickly figured out I hit a nerve with people in a good way.
Yeah. And then it became something other, not just chicken. Reviewing all kinds of stuff, right?
I have reviewed gas station sushi.
All right.
I have done the sushi, yeah.
Good?
The 2 times I've done it, it was good. So one was in Memphis, and that place is, unfortunately, that guy's gone. But you walked in, and there was literally an Asian guy, a Japanese guy, making the sushi in the gas station.
Wow.
It was really pretty good.
That's cool.
I was really surprised. And the other was Jasper, Alabama.
Okay.
Biofresh Seafood in Jasper, Alabama. And it's very well known. It was on True South on the ESPN network, SEC network. And they did a whole episode in Jasper. And so, it was good. It was really good. Yeah.
I come to think of it, I've had one experience with you. I got to be on your review show with you. It was in where I live, not where you live.
Yeah.
It's the best chicken I've ever had in Tupelo.
It's pretty good chicken.
Yeah. And got the big Elvis place, King's Chicken, got the Elvis sign on the side.
I think they just opened a full restaurant too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but it's one of those, it was an example of, it's a little bit out of the normal path that I drove. And for me, I thought, well, why didn't I discover this on my own?
Right.
But I found it and discovered how good it was through your show.
That happens a lot because, especially on TikTok or something, the For You page, if I tag where it is, they'll go back and show it to you because you live there.
Yeah.
And people are like, how did I not know about this? It really, and then everybody else is like, I don't know how you didn't know it's right next to you.
Next to you. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But it does happen.
Well, hunters, have they reached out to you over the years and said, hey, you need to go to so-and-so and they've got this and I eat this on the way out of the woods. You need to go over there. Like, I'm sure you get those
duck
calls.
Hunters especially. There's a place in Crowder called Crowder Market or something like that. And I started getting hit early on. You got to go there on Saturday. They do ribs. And I went during duck season, and there was probably 15 people in line, and I was the only one that didn't have camouflage on. It was all duck hunters.
How about that?
And the ribs were pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You've touched on duck hunting a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's near and dear to you too, isn't it?
Yeah, I guided duck hunts for about 10 years. I grew up duck hunting.
I did not all this talking we've done, and you never came out and said I was a duck guide for over 10 years.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. I'm old.
Well, I am too. I'm right there with you. Okay, but you were a guide. How young were you when that started?
Oh, gosh, I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it from probably 22, 23 to about the time I ran for judge, 32.
Okay.
And so maybe 9 years. And I was working for my dad on his farm, and they paid me a very minimal salary. So I was struggling. I was on the struggle bus a little bit, and we had all this good duck hunting, and people were paying good money to come duck hunting. In the 90s, duck hunting was great in the Mississippi Delta. I mean, we killed a lot of ducks in the 90s and early 2000s. So I duck guided in that kind of premium time to be a duck guide. And it was, I'm not going to say it burned me out a little bit, but yeah, you would get a new group and they would be ready to go and I'd be tired.
I see.
And I did that, but I actually saved that money, and that's how I bought the building that is my restaurant now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I used cash money. I say cash. I had it in a bank account, and that's how I bought the building.
What
really
restaurant do you own?
Stafford's Market in Drew.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Drew, Mississippi.
Yep.
There's somebody else from Drew. Who could that be? Archie, some guy named Archie?
Yeah. Yeah, a few people know him.
Archie Manning from Drew.
Yeah.
Did you always kind of have a dream of having a restaurant? Was that just a spur of the moment
thing? Did not. And I got real involved. So my dad retired in 99. I went out farming on my own in 2000. And I actually had more time instead of less. I thought I'd have less time, and a much smaller farm. And I realized that I had a little extra time, got real involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and wanted to do something. And we did a lot of cool stuff, but I realized, hey, we really bad need somebody to invest in our downtown area. Mm. So I bought that building thinking I might want a restaurant, and then ended up going, yeah, I kind of do. I miss those places that were like gas stations, the Sullivan's barbecues and the Robinson's grocery and stuff like that. And I was like, I think we can recreate that. And downtown didn't have a restaurant.
Really?
We had the Rebel Roost on the highway, which closed oddly about 6 months after I opened. I mean, they were getting older, and just a lot of different reasons for that. And it was just on my heart that we needed something in downtown Drew. So with zero restaurant experience, which 21 years ago, in retrospect, was completely ridiculous. I opened a restaurant.
Yeah. So instead of knowing what you're doing and then opening it, you opened it and then figured out what you were doing.
Yes, it was a very expensive school those first few years.
I wondered about that because all I've ever heard is how difficult the restaurant business is. That's all I've ever heard about it.
I was smart enough to know that I didn't know.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so I think, we had very limited menu. We kind of just did sandwiches originally. And served a lot of duck hunters in the wintertime, farmers in the summertime, which is still kind of what we do.
Yeah.
And then over time, it became more of a country cooking, soul food, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we still do some sandwiches, but now it's fried chicken and turnip greens and cornbread and all that stuff.
So running a restaurant, you still find time to hunt. I see the videos every now and then all over the place in multiple states doing food reviews. How do you find time for all that?
Well, I sleep at night. I still sleep. I get my 8 hours in. Yeah. The farm is small now, so I have a very small farm. Okay. And of course, this time of the year, it's not much going on. And I have really, really good team at the restaurant that I could leave for 2 weeks and nobody, including my customers, would know I was gone, Yeah. So there's that. That's a big help. I've got a very good team, which I didn't always have. I had good people, but it's a difference between having one or two good people and having a good team. Uh-huh. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they know the customers, and they know how to treat people. And so I can leave and come sit down with you, and I don't worry about it.
Yeah. Still find time to hunt a little bit here or there?
A little bit, not as much as I used to. I'm not quite, we say I'm not as mad at them as I used to be. Right. It's so convenient. Yeah. It's, I can jump in the truck and leave the house at 6 o'clock, and by shooting hours, which is 6:30 something, I'm set up, ready to go. So
yeah.
So it's too easy to never do it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I am not as mad at them as I used to be.
As you used to be.
Yeah.
As you talk too, it's pretty easy for me to also see kind of sort of this interjoining relationship between, let's say, farming and land ownership, as it were, and food and hunting.
Yeah.
All those things really do sort of intermingle in our culture, don't they?
They do. And there's something about when you farm, you are so connected to the land, and in hunting, you're connected to the land.
Yeah.
And both of those things are food related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're like you said, you're going to the gas station, but you're also harvesting these animals that God provided and taking them home, and hopefully you're doing something great with them when you get home.
Yeah. You do you still have the same passion for the the internet fame and the gas station food reviews as you did when you first started?
I think so.
Are you as mad at that as you were when you first started?
Maybe a little madder. I don't know.
Okay.
In more ways than one, like maybe my head needs to be checked madder. But it's such a weird turn of events. I'm completely convinced that success and attention are very similar in the day we live in today. And so I know the more attention I get, and I'm wearing the Drew hat today. I love my hometown. I love Mississippi. Yeah. If I can use that attention to help Mississippi in my hometown, but then in turn help myself too, that's all wins for me. Mm-hmm. And I've been very careful about what content I put out. Everybody doesn't do it that way. So I know I've sacrificed probably some views for the way I do content, but I'm also really comfortable with my grandchildren watching it. I don't have any grandchildren yet, but hopefully one day.
For the record.
For the record. And so, when I'm dead, and I do think about what's it going to look like when I'm dead and gone.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah,
I think that's great advice for people that are listening. Where did the Delta Wings Festival come along for you and kind of start to, weave into all these other things, lives that you've lived?
So back in I was doing all these guided hunts. These people were going through Stuttgart to get here to hunt.
Okay.
And I was like, man, there's really something going on. And Drew did seem to be it's the dead center of the Mississippi Delta. So many duck hunters were passing through Drew. And I'm like, there's really something to this duck hunting thing. And I was on the Chamber of Commerce board, and I said, we should ask Haley Barbour to name us the duck hunting capital of Mississippi, like Stuttgart's the duck hunting capital of the world. And they loved the idea, but they said, what about Waterfowl Capital? Because we started getting all these geese in.
Okay.
So we wrote a letter to Haley Barbour. He sends us a letter back saying, I, Haley Barbour, designate Drew, Mississippi, Waterfowl Capital of the state. And so there's a big sign outside of Drew that says that. And then I got the bright idea, let's do a festival. And so we started this festival pretty much designed after what Stuttgart does, which is the duck gumbo competition and the duck calling stuff. And the first year we did our own duck calling. We did our own, we just started from scratch. The second year we became a state and regional contest winners would go on to Stuttgart to compete in the world.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so we did that for about 8 years. And being a little bitty town like Drew, it's the same people doing everything. And there was some burnout, and that thing kind of slipped by the wayside for a few years. And then several years ago, I said, I want our restaurant to sponsor 2 events a year. So we do a Mardi Gras parade, lawnmower Mardi Gras parade. And then we decided to bring the gumbo cooking back. And so we were just going to do just the Mississippi Gumbo Championship. And we did that for a couple years, and the guys that run the duck calling contest hit us back up. So then the duck calling contest comes back the last 2 years, and it's been there. So we were like, okay, well, I guess it's Delta Wings Festival again.
And in the timeline, like when that idea first sparked and you wrote that letter to the governor, what time frame are we talking about?
My gosh, somewhere around 05,
Okay.
06, somewhere in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think when he was in office, and so we're right at 20 years
Yes.
since that first letter.
But we're
was
only
written.
on like, this will be the next one, be like the 13th, because there was a hiatus in
Yeah,
there. And then
yeah.
one year we did it just the gumbo, which is more my speed.
Mm-hmm.
The duck calling thing, the competition calling is a whole different animal.
They take it seriously.
They take it very seriously. And I don't, which I don't know that that's the best way to do it. You know, I'm like, it's not that big a deal to me who wins, but to them, it's a really, really big deal. And one of the funnest ones we ever had is Josh Raggio. I don't know if you've ever had Josh on here.
But I know all about him too.
So Josh won the state in Drew, Mississippi. And now one of the cool things about it is the waterfowl capital of Mississippi. We do our competition off an actual floating duck blind with a Evinrude motor on the back. So we're the only people that do that. And so people come, they're like, it's a different feeling doing it, because I did it in Oxford for a while. They did it in Jackson a couple of times. And they were like, that's a whole different thing, going to the Mississippi Delta, standing on an actual duck blind that's camoed out with a motor on the back in the dead center of the Delta. That is a different feeling for a lot of them. So they like coming there and doing it. But it takes a lot of people to put that contest on. You really need 7 or 8 pretty dedicated guys to run it that day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts to a duck calling contest.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I was like, let's be the waterfowl capital of Mississippi. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Well, but there's something to be said, Stafford, and this isn't me like trying to make you blush and bragging on you right here on camera and all that, but the what's the word I'm looking for? The initiative, okay, to just start something with the confidence that, hey, let's start and then we'll figure it out. You seem to be someone who says, this is something I want to do. This is something needs to be done. Here we go. And then figure it out along the way.
That has been my entire life, I think. Richard Branson said something like, when you get a great opportunity, say yes and figure out how to do it later, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing it, I'm sure.
I've heard that the kind of the inverse of that, if you wait until you're ready to have children, you'll never have them. Thing,
Well, everybody's an imposter day one, right?
Okay.
Like, I've been an imposter most of my life. The judge thing was the same way. Unfortunately, the way that came up, my dad passed away. He'd been judged for 2 years, and I get a visit from the board of supervisors, and they're like, we got to appoint somebody next Monday. And this is like the day after the funeral. Mm. And I really don't want to do it, to be honest. And I ended up doing it 14 years. And I was just like, okay. And my only time in a courtroom had been to get out of jury duty, and so there I am. A few weeks later, I'm judge,
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
So then here's what I was thinking. If you had this, say, 20-minute conversation with a stranger in an airport who had no idea about any of this ahead of time, they would then say, you need to write a book. Put all that in a book, or you need to write all this down and someday it's going in a book. But like we're saying, you've already done that.
Yes.
We've got a book.
We do have a book. I like writing. I always wanted to write something. And I've dabbled with writing for the local paper and Mississippi Magazine and Delta Magazine and stuff. And I actually hired a business coach. And he said, a book for a person like you, a book is a business card. It's something you can sell it, but you can also give it away. And then that person knows you and knows who they're dealing with. Because the other thing I'm convinced of is people don't do business with businesses, they do business with people. And so if I'm and it's very intentional the way I wrote the book that I talk about Drew a lot. Mm-hmm. I give the address of the restaurant like 19 times in that book. and then talk about all the different iterations of what Drew was, but also what Drew is today, and then maybe what Drew can be. And I say that, and I think about every small town in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. That's my hope, that these small towns all don't have to just die on the vine.
Yeah. Yeah. So your thinking is that there's also some greater purpose in really everything you're doing other than I'm retired from this. I want to do that. This is a good idea. You got a little greater purpose going on in the whole thing too.
I think everybody does to some degree. There's a great Anthony DeMello quote. We're all selfish. Some of us have just found a higher form of selfishness, which he was a Jesuit priest. So he meant that from a biblical perspective, that God gave us purpose, but we can still get something out of that purpose. You know what I mean? They're like, I was adopted at birth, and it was a sealed adoption. I know nothing about my birth parents, but I ended up with all these father figures in Drew, Mississippi. They're all gone now. Wow. And that place that adopted me, when wherever it was I was supposed to be from didn't want me or couldn't handle me or whatever the deal was, no judgment there.
Sure.
But I don't want to watch that place just die without me trying to do something. And I think that a lot of Mississippians feel that when you ride through. I think about, you were talking about Archie earlier. He got to feel that when he comes back to Drew and looks at the Drew he grew up in, he calls Mayberry, and the Drew of today. And I know we can't go back to that, but we can certainly be something better than what we are today.
Right. And you can, from your perspective too, I see it as you can certainly decide not to just throw your hands up and give up and walk away.
I think you have if you live in a place, you have an obligation to be part of the solution. Even though I have no idea what the solution is. Mm-hmm. I'm just like you said, I'm just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks.
It's interesting. Okay. Again, as you talk, I think about, okay, what other places in Mississippi are a little bit like Drew?
There's a bunch.
And then who's there in those communities that is a little bit like you, that maybe the thing that's holding them back from, writing a letter to the governor and wanting to be the Waterfowl Capital of Mississippi, and then it turns into a festival, or, kind of tapping into what hunters do on the way in and on the way out. They're eating gas station food, and we promote our hometown with that and that kind of thing. Maybe what stops them is the fear of failure. It's like, I could do it, pour myself into it, but that's going to fall flat. And then what,
Yeah.
Did you, it's almost rhetorical. I think I know the answer. Have you ever had times where you hesitated thinking, this may not work?
Oh, I still think none of it's going to work sometimes, my favorite movie growing up was probably Raiders of the Lost Ark. And my dad grew up in the cowboy movies, right? He always was like, I was born 100 years too late. Kind of like Jimmy Buffett and the Pirates, And then I look at Indiana Jones, and his life was an adventure, and he got banged up and bruised up. But I was like, my life is going to be an adventure one way or the other. And you don't get adventure without taking risks. Mm-hmm. And some of them have been calculated, and some of them have been stupid. And I paid a lot of stupid tax. I've made some very grave errors in judgment that did not work out. But you only have to be right once for people to remember that. And the thing about reaching out, and what we're really talking about is whether you're a hunter or you're trying to help your small town or what, if there's something about duck hunting you don't know, you reach out for help, right?
Yeah,
if you need a place to hunt, you reach out, you can get told no. But most of the time, people are willing to help. But if they don't know that you need it, they can't help. They don't know what the problem is. They can't help.
Right. They're not going to call you.
No.
You got to stick your neck out there.
I'm guilty of that too. Now we're talking about the whole thing with the festival was having enough people, and I don't think we did a great job of asking for help to run that festival. And so this last year, I really reached out to like Ducks Unlimited, who came through and helped and sent a bunch of people that day.
Yeah,
because we just couldn't do it anymore. And hunters love they love participating in stuff like that. So I was like, why am I not asking for help when you got this great community of hunters in Mississippi that really are a community that want to participate in stuff like that?
Yeah. What time of year is the festival?
First weekend in November.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
First weekend in November.
Yep.
How'd you decide on that time frame?
We've been always around the end of October, 1st of November, and we bounce it around a lot for ball games and for we don't want it to be youth weekend of gun season or whatever, because there's so many things going on. October, we just figured out everybody has their festival in October. So any given Saturday, to use a football term, there are 4 or 5 festivals going on in Mississippi in October. November is nothing. Mm-hmm. The only thing you got to compete with is a home game at Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Yeah. One year we lucked up and they were both an open date. So we had a great turnout.
That's great.
But the same guys at Hunt also love football.
Yeah.
You know, so you lose a lot of guys. Same guys that cook gumbo also love football.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to get the Ole Miss folks on a home game this year when they were winning.
Sure.
That, you know, 1st of November, they didn't want to miss a home game. But yeah, it worked out, and we just started. We're like, we got to stick with a date because it confuses everybody. So we're just like, let's just say first weekend in November. Hopefully we get good weather. Hopefully it's not freezing.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we stuck with that.
And, you know, it might be hot, it might be cold that time. You just don't know. But 2 things. Again, we talk about culture. 2 things that you have to plan things around a lot of times, like Chip planning a wedding or something like that. Is you plan it around football. And you plan it around opening day of hunting seasons and that kind of thing. That's just what we have to do. Isn't it?
Yeah, you know, you've never been on opening day of dove season, have you?
Well, It's always football.
It's the first weekend of football too.
It always.
So everybody's got great hope for their teams that weekend, and you know, well, maybe this year because it was on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. It was on a Sunday this year, and I picked on all my buddies. Now, hey, look, opening day Sunday morning, but I'm gonna see you in that church at 10:30, 11 o'clock. Now, there's no dress code at church. Just come on in, because you know good and well there's some of them that didn't want to come after that opening day. I have
a great hunting story about church in hunting. Some states it's illegal to hunt on Sundays. They closed the season. In North Carolina was one of those. I don't know if it's still that way, but I would have these Baptist preachers come from North Carolina. They're like, wait, you can hunt on Sundays? But I carried one group. They wanted to hunt that Sunday morning, so I took them. And the Drew Country Club back then, closed now, was open. And I'm like, oh, after we hunt, we'll go eat at the Drew Country Club. And they're like, I don't know if we need to be going in the Drew Country Club in camouflage. I said, it's way more country than club. Let me just. And so even today, now we have a Sunday lunch buffet. And it's like during duck season at 11 o'clock, full of duck hunters, and at 12 o'clock, it's full of people in church clothes.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So there's that overlap. It doesn't quite overlap, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a good dove shoot?
Whew.
You told me the story one time too.
Yeah. So to be clear, this did not happen in Mississippi because I don't want to go to jail. But I went to Argentina, and every good old boy from Mississippi should go to Argentina and dove hunt one time. So I killed 1,100 birds one day in Argentina, which doesn't seem real.
Oh my God.
Well, I killed 3,737 doves in 4 days.
Okay, pause. PSA. In Argentina.
Yes.
This was not here. Okay. 1,100 in one day. That was yourself.
That was just me. There was a group of us from the Delta that went.
What did your shoulder feel like after that, huh?
You know, it's so funny because I've shot so much. And I mean, I used to shoot, especially when I was a kid, you know, I would go through 10 boxes of shells so fast. And they were 20-box cases back in the day. Still use 20-box cases in Argentina, by the way.
Okay.
And so my shoulder's pretty firm. It doesn't bother me much. And they were like, oh, you're going to shoot so much. You need a shoulder pad and gloves because you're going to be pulling the trigger so much. And I hunted with that the first afternoon. We got there the first afternoon. And I was like, 15 minutes in, I took all that stuff off. You're shooting a 20 gauge with no plug.
Yeah.
And the thing that they don't tell you is, you know, if you're shooting 1,000 times a day, doing this 1,000 times is not very fun.
It's like
so what you realize is it's not like you think. It's not just these unbelievable amount of doves, but it's the best dove hunt you've ever been on that has that maybe 10 minutes where it's just hot. Doves are just, it's like that all day.
Okay.
Daylight to dark.
It never slows
Never
down.
stops.
Okay.
And we learned pretty quick, you don't even pick the gun up unless you have an opportunity to unload it.
Okay.
And so if it was one dove, I didn't even pick the gun up.
Okay.
And the first day, the other funny thing was the first day, everybody's shooting, they count your doves. They got a little clicker. So the guy you're with counting your dove. And then he'll compare that to Mine counted the misses. And then he looked at how many shells I went through, and he would go, well, you killed this number of doves. Well, the first day I'm shooting like 65, 70%, which was respectable. By the last day, everybody's shooting 90% plus.
Okay, really?
Yeah, because you're getting 1,000 reps a day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So everybody's a good shot by day 4. Yeah.
That's neat. So if we were to extrapolate that over to practicing here, say at a range or something, basically what that example shows is if I go and work on it and I shoot skeet, or like the cool thing I saw this week from MDWFP, the hiatus shooting, if I go do that and work on it, I'm going to be a better shot at the dove field.
Well, shotgun, and I like wing shooting better than I like deer. I do deer hunt a little bit, and that's a whole nother story because we didn't have deer in the Delta when I was a kid. There just weren't any. Huh. But I just grew up wing shooting. Dove season and duck season were the two big things. And it's just repetition. Yeah. It's movement and repetition. You don't even think about it. It's just automatic.
Yeah.
I'm sure that throwing a football is kind of the same way. If you're thinking about your steps, you're not going to do it.
Right.
And if you're thinking about, I need to lead them this far, you just learn that. I mean, it's just automatic. You just pick the gun up and shoot.
Just pick it up.
And in fact, this is a true story. By the last day, we had gotten so good at shooting. We were doing stuff like, can I shoot them with one hand? Yep, sure can. It's a little 20 gauge, it's like
trick shots. Huh?
Trick shots. We were doing trick shots the last afternoon.
So are there just that many birds out there in Argentina?
Yes. And we were in this area of Argentina called Cordoba. And they were telling us how many millions of birds were in Argentina in Cordoba 10 years previous to there. And it was like 10 times more. So even though they were hunting them hard like this, they're just exploding in population. So they were very happy for us to kill as many as we could kill.
Yeah. I wonder why.
I don't know. They're the same distance from the equator as Drew, Mississippi, pretty much. So the total opposite weather, if it's spring here, it's fall there.
Maybe we just have more good old boys up here shooting.
Well, maybe.
All they wanted to see, and all they cared about, we had these guys that would go with us and pick the birds up or whatever. And all they wanted to see was the deer that we killed, because they didn't have deer. They have some deer down there, but not like we had.
Yeah. How'd you wind up down there, though? How'd you hear about it?
A friend of mine, I made several years back. This was, goodness gracious, 2013 or 14. That whole adventure thing was clicking off. And I'm like, I've turned down so many things that I shouldn't have turned down. Mm-hmm. The next time somebody comes in with an adventure, I'm going to say yes. The same day, and I told my wife this, the same day, Phil McNair walks in my restaurant and says, hey, we're going to Argentina in October. You want to go with us? I said, yep.
Yes.
I had no idea how much it was going to cost or anything. Turns out it's expensive enough. You're probably only going to do it one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was definitely worth it. And so, we went in October and had a great time.
That's great.
I gained 8 pounds while I was there. They fed us really well.
How about that?
Yeah.
Man works at a restaurant, still gained 8 pounds. He ate so well in a week.
All this grass-fed beef. It was good. And back in those days, we were still having really great dove hunts opening weekend in Mississippi. So, I had something really good to compare it to. We don't have those kind of dove hunts opening weekend anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm sure y'all have talked about that. I think the migratory doves don't come in until later now. Because we got a lot of doves right now.
Yeah. You got the resident population. We learned about that here on the show, and then those that migrate in.
I saw that on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Just another one of those examples of things I've learned getting to sit in this chair and just ask questions. If I read your book, Meat and Three, meat spelled with 2 E's, as in meeting, meat and three, what will I learn?
Wright Thompson did the foreword for me, which was kind of cool because he's a way better writer than I'll ever be. But he did such a good job prefacing it in that if you're from the Delta, you'll recognize every story in there because you lived it. If you're not from the Delta, it's a little glimpse into just things. It's just different. The Delta, and even people, like doing the gas station tailgate review and spending a lot of time on the Gulf Coast or in Tupelo area. And then you start getting up toward Corinth and you go, wait, this is more like Appalachia. With the slug burgers and all that. I never heard of a slug burger. You get on the coast and you got all the seafood and Vietnamese. like our state is not one state. It's got a lot of different cultures in it.
Yeah.
And the Delta is one of those different cultures, and it's just different. And it's something that is so many writers have tried to explain and still hadn't been explained very well.
Right. You and I had a text conversation about that recently. You know, I look at a lot of photo work and, you know, photojournalists and art books, and, you know, there's been a million different books done of photos of the Delta and Highway 61 and all that. And I have even felt like what little bit of time I've spent in the Delta working or meeting people and driving through, I still haven't seen that one book that really illustrates what I see. I guess it's impossible. It's very diverse. And in some ways, is it fair to say that the reality is there's a very different Delta story than what gets told sometimes? Is that fair to say?
Well, it's so crazy because I was thinking about the food side of that coming in, and my friend John T. Edge, who ran Southern Foodways Alliance, and one of the big goals that they had was giving African-American cooks in the South their due for their role in our cuisine, which was much needed. Mm-hmm. But it feels like it's almost ignored the Italians' role, the Lebanese role, particularly in the Delta. We were just thinking about this the other day because you had the synagogue fire here in Jackson, but the role of Jewish immigrants in building our downtowns in most of Mississippi, but especially the Delta. There's just so many of those stories that, for obvious reasons, used to get told and don't get told anymore. So it really is a melting pot when you go to the Delta. Everybody lived next to each other. It was governmentally segregated, but in real life it wasn't segregated in a way, if that makes sense. Which I think about New York. You go to New York, was one point the most segregated city probably in the world because you had Little Italy and Chinatown. And everybody kept to themselves. But in the Delta, it was so small. Everybody lived next to rich people lived next to the poor people, and it's a weird blending of cultures, and I think that's why it's so hard to tell the story.
Hard to tell the story,
yeah.
And at the same time, why simple things, hunting, farming, food, are so synonymous with the culture with all of those groups. Which is also cool. You know, there was so many hardships. The Delta was so many hardships, and everybody was just trying to survive it. So I think that's the thing that gets lost. It wasn't one group of people trying to survive it, even though for sure African Americans had a tougher spot than probably anybody else. But I go back to, there's this picture of my granddad with his first truck, and his house is sitting behind him. And when I hear a kid today say, well, we can't buy a house like my great-granddaddy did, you wouldn't live in that house. My granddaddy's house, when he had older kids, was a shack. It was hard on everybody. There were a few privileged white people for sure, but most people were hunting not for the love of hunting. They were hunting because they needed to put protein on the table. And they hunted the Delta out of wild game almost. Yeah. I mean, that's a story of Mississippi too, because the deer got hunted near to extinction. But yeah, when I was a kid, if you saw a deer track, when you got to school the next day, you said, "Hey, I saw a deer track." You know, I got to tell you about this, Matt. Yeah,
and now they're everywhere. One was in my driveway last night when I pulled in, which is just so wild
and cool.
Yeah.
At the same time, well, it's really cool to get to talk to you. And learn a little bit about it and the story behind all these different lives that you have lived and are currently living now as an author and restaurant
that's
owner
weird.
And all that. You ever get introduced? Author Stafford Shurden.
So I really hadn't. I still get introduced Judge. Sometimes I go places and they go, "We got Judge Shurden here." So it's weird that you get that title and you just like never lose it or something. Yeah. And when I see a lot of local law enforcement, they all still call me Judge. And that's easy out for most people. You know, when I would go to these judges conferences, you didn't have to learn anybody's name. You just, "Hey, Judge."
Hey, Judge. Yeah. In athletics, I say it's like coach.
Coach, same exact thing.
Once a guy's been a coach, he's always coach.
Always coach.
And I've noticed that the coaches, they call everybody else coach, whether they're a coach or not. I've never coached, and they'll tell you, hey, coach. Well, I'm not a coach.
I've got the guy that taught me into writing the book was a former girls basketball coach.
Okay.
And he just goes by coach. Everybody calls him coach still. And I mean, he hadn't been a girls basketball coach in like 20 years.
Yeah. All right, Judge.
Yeah.
Appreciate some time. Thank you.
Yeah.
He is Stafford Shurden on the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. Hope y'all enjoy that. I know I did too. Thanks for listening. We'll see you outdoors.